Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now I thought I'd do this video because I think something needs to be brought to attention. But before I go into it, I'm going to do a quick timepiece check, and today I'm wearing my Rolex Submariner. Now the fact I'm wearing my Rolex Submariner today is very fitting because I am going to be talking about why I'm not wearing my Rolex Submariner anymore, or indeed anything like as much as I used to. Now I don't know what's happened since I bought my watch in 2019, whether it be the Submariner, GMT Master 2, Daytona, Yachtmaster, you name it. The hype that is on these watches at the moment, plus the fact that Rolex have been squeezing supply for a good number of years now, means these watches are becoming almost unattainable. I mean, I'm beginning to doubt that I'm ever going to be able to buy any type of Rolex sports watch from an AD in the future. In fact, I'm beginning to think that my best chance of getting any of the really sought after Rolex sport watches is going to be through a second-hand dealer. And I think that's a huge shame, because if you look at the history of the Rolex brand and what that brand started out trying to do, it was a watch of the people. Yes, perhaps it was slightly more expensive because it was meant to be a watch that was sturdy, especially dive watches. I mean, a lot of the innovations that Rolex worked on to make their watches so incredibly waterproof, which is different to water resistant, by the way. The legibility of the looms underwater, etc. The real dive pedigree that the Rolex Submariner has, for example, but also the reason behind the design of the GMT Master 2, which is to help the pilots when they're going to other countries. The thought that had gone into these watches, but essentially they were watches for the everyday person that would not break down, was sturdy, strong, and they could wear it every day and could take a proper battery and still be perfect. Well, of course, Rolex is now synonymous with an upmarket brand, and with that comes a hype. Now, I'm going to say something that might be slightly controversial for any watch enthusiasts or lovers out there, or people that know watches, but if you look at the Rolexes of today, Rolexes are really fantastic, beautiful, brilliant watches. But there are other brands of watches that have, similar or even greater levels of quality with really thorough design detail. And this is across price ranges. I mean, you can go from H Moser all the way to FP Journe, and you'll get watches with clear caseback crystals, with Genève striping on the bridges, which incorporate unglarged finishes, and even in times precious metals. Now, Rolex watches, as good and as brilliant as they are at the moment, and it seems to be for a long time to come, commanding prices that does not really befit the level of workmanship that has gone into these watches. And it's not that these watches are bad quality at all. That's not what I'm saying. When you buy a Rolex, you're buying high quality watchmaking, but you just don't have the level of detail that you'll get, for example, in an FP Journe or Audemars Piguet. But what we're seeing now is Rolex sports watches commanding prices well in excess of the level of workmanship that's gone into these watches in the first place. For example, the Rolex Submariner. When I bought my Rolex, which is the 116610 LN reference, you could quite easily look on Chrono 24 and pick up one of these watches, the Submariner Day, for around £8,500 to £9,000 in very good condition, and crucially with box and papers. If you want to try and get a Rolex Submariner like mine, yes, I know it's been discontinued, but if you want to get a Rolex Submariner like mine in very good condition from around 2019 onwards, a Submariner Day, albeit discontinued from that era, is now going to set you back £11,500 to £12,000 if you're lucky. And that is just insane for a Rolex Submariner Day, which at the time of retail, yes, it has been discontinued, but that was £6,500. It's almost double the price it originally was. And that's a trend that we're seeing in all of the Rolex sports watch brands. Watches like the GMT Master 2 Batman, for example, that I used to see retail for around £13,000, £14,000, I can now see for no less than £15,000. It's just insane. Now, going back to the point of my video, when I bought my Rolex, I clearly bought my Rolex to wear and enjoy it. But because it's now so valuable, it's got to a point where I can't really wear my watch and feel comfortable wearing it. And I just think for my everyday goings on, the difference of having £8,000 on my wrist and £12,000 on my wrist It's just too much of a heavy burden to have when I'm walking around. I can't feel safe and relaxed the way things are, especially, times are hard, and it just seems so obscene. The other day I went out for my friend's birthday, and some of the group asked me, because they know, I do my channel, etc. And I wasn't wearing my Rolex. I just had to tell them what I've just told you guys. It's just become almost unwearable because of the price inflation that's happened on these watches. Any type of Rolex sports watch over the last 3.5 to 4 years. I doubt Rolex will ever watch my video or indeed listen to me or any of the ADs that have dealings with Rolex, but I just hope that something happens where they can make these watches just a little bit more accessible, because I think it's now becoming ridiculous. It's my view that anyone that has an appreciation of horology and fine watches should be able to own a Rolex sports watch one day, provided that they can reasonably afford to buy that watch. However, I feel like the tightening of supply by Rolex, along with some of the unfortunate shenanigans that we're seeing employed by some of the ADs, and I can tell you a few stories myself that sell these timepieces on behalf of Rolex, means it's getting less and less likely that someone like you and me are able to go and ever buy one of these watches from the shop, and it's having a knock-on effect, because even now the second-hand market is going crazy, and it's just, I don't know if that's really good. I mean, great for the brand, I get it, it's becoming ultra premium, but I'm not sure that's really what's best for those that really love and appreciate the brand, and those that really love horology generally. I don't know if that's a good thing. So I really hope Rolex do something about it, and maybe one day there can be an end to this madness and Rolex sports watches can become just that little bit more accessible. That's it for me. I hope this wasn't too much of a rant, but if you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.